What if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead? Baby, you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares. Standing right there. What if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead? Then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want.
Alright, welcome to this video. This video is a part 2 to the previous video. So in the last video we learned how to make the trouser that you can see on the outfit at the beginning of the video. This video is the video on how to make a shirt as promised. Total, that's for both the shirt and the trouser that you've seen that make up the outfit. I bought 4 yards, so I'm going to assume that we use 2 yards for the trouser. The first part we're going to draft is the back. Okay, we're going to draft the back, then we're going to use the back to cut the front. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a fold on your fabric using your widest measurement plus 2 inches. So for me, the widest measurement I'm working with, when I say widest, is your widest horizontal measurement. So measurements like your bust, your under bust, round, your waist, your hip, those are horizontal measurements. So your largest horizontal measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches. So for me, that's the bust. The bust is 35 divided by 4 is 8.75 plus 2 inches is 10.75. so I'm going to use 10.75 to make my fold. So after we have made the fold, I just simply made a cut at the top. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark ½ inch at the top. This is the allowance that we're going to use for joining this to the front and the back together at the shoulder. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my vertical measurements. So I'm going to come from the top, heading all the way down. Now mind you, when I was making this fold, I folded the wrong side up. So this is the inner parts of the fabric. This is the wrong side of the fabric I'm marking. So I'm going to mark my under bust length. My under bust length is 14. I'm going to make a mark at 14. Your under bust length minus 4 will tell you where your bust is. So under bust length minus 4, 14 minus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at 10. Place the mark at 10. I'm going to place my shoulder to belly button. So I call that measurement shoulder to waist. Is the distance from the highest point of your shoulder to your belly button. For me, that number is 20. Make a mark at 20, and then I'm marking the shirt length at 27. So it's a bit of a long shirt. Marking the shirt length at 27 inches. I'm now going to rule horizontal lines across all these points. So after you've marked all these points, let's start placing some measurements down. The first measurement we are going to place is our shoulder measurement. Your shoulder measurement is divided by 2. So for me, the shoulder is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. So I'm going to make a mark at 7.5. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my bust measurements. The bust is 35. 35 divided by 4. So the bust divided by 4 is 8.75. And then I'm going to place my under bust round or my under bust length. So my under bust round is 29. 29 divided by 4 is 7.25. And then on my shoulder to waist measurement, I'm going to place my waist measurement. So I took from the shoulder to the belly button and took the circumference around that part there. So the waist. So the waist is 33. Now mind you, these measurements are a bit loose. The measurement around the waist is a bit loose. 33 divided by 4 is 8.25. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add ½ inch to that measurement and place it at the end of the shirt. So here I place 8.25. If in your case you have 10 inches here, down here you place 10.5. So I have 8.25 here. So down here I'm going to place 8.75. After you've done that, you join your lines together. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slope the shoulder over here. I'm going to slope the shoulder by 1 inch. So we come from the ½ inch line that we have here, you're going to come down by 1 inch and you're going to make a mark. Alright, and then you're going to connect from here to the center of here. Okay. Alright, after that we're going to place our armhole. So the formula for finding your armhole is your bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I'm working with 35 inches. 35 inches divided by 6 plus 1.5 is 7.3. I'm going to just make it a bit bigger and just mark a more standardized measurement, 7.5. So 7.3, excuse me, 7.3 would have been around here. 7.5 is here. I'm going to just go down just a little bit. Yeah. After I placed that 7.5, I made my curve for my armhole. I'm going to now place my allowances. So at the bottom here, we're going to place 1.5 inches of allowance for our hemming. And then here on the sides, I'm going to simply place 1 inch for allowance on the side. At the top here, you see this is the slope we made at the shoulder. I'm going to just place 1/2 inch on top. This is going to serve as my allowance, and then just for me to connect the lines together. Okay, so now it's time to cut it out. So we're going to use this back to cut the front. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut your allowance, that's your hemming allowance at the bottom. Cut it just a bit bigger. Fold the allowance inside, and then you can make the cuts. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're going to use the back to cut the front of the shirt. So here we have the back. Under here we have the part that's going to be the front. The difference between the front and the back for now is that on the front we want to have an excess of 3.5 inches in front of here before we cut. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my back or my front. I'm going to simply make my adjustments. So after I have marked 3.5, from this edge I marked 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. I'm going to carefully use my iron to iron it so that I'm sure I have 3.5 everywhere. Alright? Now, okay, you've seen what I've done. After I folded, I simply placed my back on my front to make sure that they are the same all the way. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, okay, and I'm cutting out my back my front using the pattern that I used for my back exactly. All the changes are going to start after we cut this pattern out. Alright, so after you have done this, okay, so I've cut the back and the front the same. The one underneath is the front, this is the back. I want, see this 1/2 inch of allowance we kept at the top, okay? So this 1/2 inch of allowance we kept at the top, I want you to fold it down for now and iron, okay? So fold down the 1/2 inch. I want us to know exactly where this 1/2 inch is, because we will need to know before we take the next step. So simply fold this 1/2 inch away. Alright, so I folded this and ironed, and I folded this part here and ironed. You are going to lift up the back and you are going to place it like so. So you see, you want the lines to just touch, okay? They're not going to overlap, but you see this half inch folded, this half inch folded. I want them to touch like that, okay? Just make them touch. This is the front, this is the back. You know that already. The front is the one that has the 3.5 inch fold under it. Now the next thing we're going to do is you're going to need your neck measurement. So for me, I'm working with a neck of 15 inches. 15 inches divided by 2 minus 1 inch. That's what you are going to do. Whatever your neck measurement is, you're going to divide it by 2 and you subtract 1 inch from it, and you would use that number to make the curve I'm about to show you now. So for me, 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. 7.5 minus 1 inch is 6.5. I'm going to use 6.5 to make a curve. This is the back. This is the part that does not have the 3 inches. You're going to make a mark at ½ inch, okay? Right at ½ inch. That's where this your fold stops. You make a mark there. Make sure that your fold is not larger than ½ inch. So 6.5. I'm going to use 6.5 to make a curve starting from that ½ inch. So you want to make a curve of 6.5. Alright, and then now you can see here that we have the front, and you will have 2 sides that make up your front naturally. What I want you to do first is I want you to divide this point here. So you see this point? See this excess, this curve that we have, we don't need this curve up. So you see this U right here, we don't need that, we need it to be straight down. We are going to cut this excess off. Alright. And now we have both sides of the front. Let's start creating our buttonhole space. This 3.5 inches that we kept underneath is what we're going to use to create the space for our buttonholes. Alright? So what you're going to do next is you're going to look for the right hand side of your shirt. So for me, this is the right hand side. Now, how do you know it's the right hand side? You're going to take it, you're going to make the good side of your shirt to face forward like I'm doing now. And then, you see, this is my right hand. Your right hand side, this is the part that's going to hold your buttons, okay? So how we're going to do that is we're going to iron it. Now, you see this first line that we ironed. This line here represents the middle of the back. Remember when we folded the back, we made sure that they were the same right at the center. This is that center here. So what we're going to do is you're going to come ½ inch after this point. So you see this line that we have. You're going to come ½ inch after that point, and you're going to iron from the bottom all the way up. Alright? The next thing you are going to do is you are going to cut off 1.5 inches from the bottom all the way to the top. Okay, so from the edge here, I'm going to place 1.5 on this line. I'm going to cut everything from there all the way up. Okay, so with that out of the way, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this back up. I'm going to fold ½ inch at the edge from the bottom all the way to the top. Alright, after you have done this, you can head over to your sewing machine and you are going to stitch right on the edge from here all the way down. You can stitch from the inside here if you want all the way down, but I prefer for my top thread to show. But with all the ironing I have done, I can clearly see the edge of the fold I have made underneath all the way from the top here. So let me go and make this stitch, and once I've done this, I'm done with the part that's supposed to hold my button. Alright, so with that, I have stitched the part that will hold our buttons. Let's work on the part that will hold our buttonholes. Alright, so this is the part that will hold our buttonholes. So the part you have left is the part that will hold your buttonholes. The next thing we want to do is the same thing we did when we first started the ironing process for the other part of the shirt. That's the side that will hold the buttons. We want to fold ½ inch away from the line, So you see the original line we have here, that's the line that marked the center of the back, that's also the center of the front. Since we use the back to cut the front, we're going to iron 1/2 inch away from that line. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold 1 inch in. So from the edge here, I want you to fold 1 inch in and iron it all the way up, okay? Now, after you have made this fold, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to head over to your sewing machine and I want you to sew 1 inch. So you see this edge that we have here. You're going to use your tape as a guide. I want you to sew 1 inch from the bottom all the way down. So the 1 inch stitch that you're making here is going to capture this part here that we folded underneath. Alright, so let's go and do that. Alright, so you can see here I've made the stitch I was talking about. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold here over and I'm going to iron it. Now this part that we have underneath is where our buttonholes would be. So here we'll hold our buttonholes and here we'll cover it. That's what gives it that nice neat look. So let me iron it like this and then we'll proceed. Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this back. So you see we need to make a yoke for the back. That's a yoke at the shoulders for the back. So to be able to do that, we're going to put this place back, return this 1/2 inch back to the way it was, and then we're going to get a piece. So you need a piece that's a bit bigger, so at least 8 inches wide. So 8 inches wide, just make it, this piece, you probably have a piece like this from all the cutting that we've been doing. As for the length, you need it to be long enough to be able to make a fold like the one I have made. So now keep this one aside and we're going to iron on interfacing. So non-woven fusible interfacing, SA, that's what we call it in Nigeria. We're going to iron on SA onto the wrong side of the fabric. So you've seen what I've done. After I placed it, I folded my yoke, ironed it, placed it on top, and I'm going to simply just cut it to be the same size. Alright, so after cutting the yoke, I want you to spread it out, lay it flat, and iron 1/2 inch under here. Alright, so now it's time to go and stitch it on. You have two options. You can simply just carefully place it on as I have placed it on, and then simply run your stitch from here to here. But if you want it to have that seamless look, like it doesn't have any stitches, you're going to want to turn this inside out. So you're going to simply make a mark at where this point should be, okay, where the points are, and then you're going to turn this inside out. You're going to stay on this line, okay? You're going to stitch from here all the way down. Make sure you stop over here, and by the time you're done with that and you flip it over, there won't be a stitch showing on the outside, which is what I'm going to do. Alright, so with that, I have joined the yoke to the back, and you can see what I was talking about. There is no seam showing there. Next thing is for us to join the front to the back. So to do that, I'm going to get the side that corresponds. So the side with that will hold the buttonhole matches with this side of the shoulder. So what I'm going to do is this. You see, I'm keeping wrong side, okay? So wrong side facing wrong side first of all, okay? And then I'm going to turn my yoke. So like I said, wrong side facing wrong side here, okay? So you can see wrong side facing wrong side, and then I'm going to turn my yoke over both of them like so, and then I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch from top to bottom, you should hold these 3 layers together with 1 stitch. So by the time you've made the stitch, you turn everything inside out, you will see that you have joined the front to the back neatly at the shoulder. I'm going to iron this, and I'm not going to make, you could make a stitch, a top stitch if you wanted to, that's if you had made a top stitch here, but because we want the whole thing to look nice and seamless, I'm not going to make any stitch here at all. I'm just going to iron it flat, and then I would repeat the same thing on the other side of the shoulder. Okay, after I do that, I'll be back. Alright, so after you have joined both of the shoulders and ironed it, this is what you should have. The next thing we're going to do is we have to create the collar. Now I'm going to show you guys how to make a one-piece collar, so it will have both the first step and the one that's supposed to sit on top. So we're going to cut a complete collar at once, and to come as one piece instead of 2. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to measure your neckline. So you're going to start from here. Now before you go ahead measuring this neckline, you want to throw this on the mannequin or on yourself to make sure that you like the way, you like the proximity of the neckline to your neck before you go ahead to continue. So you like how loose or tight it is. So let me measure through. And I have 18 inches, so that's the circumference of the neck plus the allowances in front. Here we have 18 inches, so we're going to use that number to cut our collar. Now for cutting the collar, I'm going to be using cloth gum, so make sure to use cloth gum. Now this cloth gum, it feels like a linen fabric that has an adhesive on one side. So remember that number 18 inches that we measured around the collar, you want to keep it in your head. So what we're going to do is you're going to roll a line. Make sure that this fold that you make is at least an inch bigger than that measurement we took plus 1 inch. So for us, that measurement around the neck was 18 inches. 18 inches divided by 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So you want to make sure that the fold you make is 1 inch bigger than your neckline divided by 2. So I have so first thing I'm going to do, just roll a straight line that would serve as your base, and then you're going to divide your neckline by 2. So for us it was 18 divided by 2 is equals to 9 inches. So you're going to make a mark at 9 inches. For me it's 9 inches, for you is whatever that your neckline is divided by 2. So 9 inches, I've marked 9 inches here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the middle of 9 inches. So the middle of 9 inches is 4.5. So the middle of the neck of your neckline divided, you're going to make a mark there. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to come here and you're going to make a mark of 1/2 inch at this middle here. So the middle of your neckline divided by 2. So make a mark at 1/2 inch here, and in front of here you want to make a mark of 1 inch. After you've done that, we're going to make a curve. Alright, so after you've done that, you want to now mark the height. Now the part we're trying to cut now is the first step of your collar. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to mark the height. For me, I want it to have a height of 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make a mark at 1.5. Just go all the way through and make a mark. Alright, now after you have made this part here, you start creating the collar. The next thing I want us to do is we want to remeasure this line again. So that's your neckline divided by 2. You want to remeasure because once you started to curve your line upwards, that number started to change. So I'm going to measure it, and as you can see, it's now 1/2 inch shorter. So this was the first point we marked. We're now 1/2 inch in. You want to remeasure that line before you continue to make sure that you know the exact point. So we've marked the first step. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to make a curve on this edge right here. Alright, so with that we have drafted the first base of the collar. Time to do the base that's supposed to sit on top of it. Alright, so after you have done that, you're going to come to the back here and you're going to make a mark from this point here. You're going to make a mark at 1.5 inches up. Okay, so make a mark here at 1.5 inches. Also, so you see this line we have here, the line that we use to get this curve, the angle we use to get this curve. You're going to come 1.5 inches away from that angle and you're going to make a mark. So you see this angle here, 1.5 inches in, make a mark. So from here to here is 1.5. Please pay attention. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to mark 2.2 inches from this point. So you're going to keep 2.2 inches on this point and you are going to make a mark at the top. And then we roll a line from here up, and then we're going to roll a line from here to there. You see that? And then we're going to just come out here by 1/2 inch in order to give the front of the collar some shape. We're going to just come out the front there by 1/2 inch, and with that you have created a complete collar with only one pattern. Let me go ahead and cut this out. Alright, and with that we have cut a complete collar at one go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this onto my fabric. Now if you notice, I didn't add any sewing allowance to the cloth gum because all our sewing allowance will be added onto the fabric when we are cutting. So first of all, iron this on. So as you can see, I have folded it in two because we will need two pieces of fabric in order to make a complete collar. I'm going to iron it down so that everything is nice and smooth before I cut out. Now when I'm cutting out, I'm going to add 1/2 inch of allowance everywhere around this pattern. So you see the way I've separated both sides. That side is going to serve as the allowance. I want you to fold 1/2 inch on the bottom. So on the side that has the cloth gum, fold 1/2 inch on the bottom and iron. And then I'm going to head over to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch at the bottom all the way through. And by the time I do that, it will secure this part here and make sure it's flat permanently. Alright, so after I have stitched this part here the way I have, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place it together. I'm going to make sure that the top here are on the same level. So you see these angles here, I'm going to make sure they are on the same level. So because of we folded in this 1/2 inch, we're going to have 1/2 inch of excess on the bottom one. So on this one here, we have a 1/2 inch of excess at the bottom. We want to keep it like so, and then we're going to iron it. I'm going to go and stitch it. So I'm going to stitch around here, just right on the edge of the white of the cloth gum, all the way around to this side. And by the time I get here, I'll be back for the next step. Alright, so now after you have done all of that, next thing you're going to do, you're going to make a notch at the top of that curve there. Make a notch right there. Do the same thing on this other side as well. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and make a stitch from here. Alright, I'm just going to run a stitch across to the other side. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the collar to the shirt. So you're going to start from the part that has the buttons. That's the part that will hold the buttonhole, and we're going to stitch this together. So you're not stitching on the side that you folded, the side that is hanging. You're going to stitch it to the front of the shirt. So that's the part that will be the front of it finally. We're going to stitch this part here, and we're going to gently stitch all the way around the collar. Okay, so we're going to sew along like this all the way until we get to the end with this other side. So Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do, so you can see this is the stitch. I've attached it all the way to this part over here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the side that I hemmed before to cover this stitch, and then I'll stitch from here all the way down. I'm going to slowly cover it neatly like so all the way down, and after I do that I'll be back. Alright, and with that I have attached the collar onto the shirt. The last thing I'm going to do is just a decorative stitch on the outside, where I would stitch from here, that's to make the curve come up here, go all the way down, and then come back here again. Alright, so with that I have created and attached my collar. So let's lock the sides. I'm going to lock the sides next. Alright, so after creating the armhole, I'm going to turn everything inside out, and then I'm going to join 1/2 inch on both sides. So here I'm going to join them together, consuming 1/2 inch. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the armhole as well. So join them and come back. Alright, so now I have locked the sides. I just simply stitched 1/2 inch like I told you to. If you are making this commercially, this would be the best time to use your weaving machine or your overlocker to finish these edges this edge that you have here together as one. Don't weave them separately, weave them together. That's going to give a nice neat look. That would be the best time to do this on both sides. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to hem the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold 1/2 and then I'm going to fold 1. Remember, when we're keeping allowance, when we're drafting, we kept 1.5 inch for allowance. This is the time I'm going to consume that 1.5 inch. So I'm going to fold 1/2 inch and then I'm going to fold 1 inch for my hemming. Alright, so after I folded the bottom part, I also went ahead to stitch it all the way down. So I finished hemming it. The next part is my sleeve. So for the cutting of my sleeve, I've cut sleeves a million times on this channel. I'm going to link a video on how to draft a sleeve in the description below. So I'm going to go ahead and draft my sleeve off camera. This video I'm sure is already quite long, so I'm going to draft my sleeve off camera, but I'm going to fix it here with you. Show you how I go about fixing it. So yeah, let me do that. Okay, so like I said, I've gone ahead to install the to cut and create my sleeve. So you can see just a regular sleeve. Like I said, I'll link a video below on how to go ahead to draft this on how to make a sleeve similar to this. But anyhow, the main thing is joining it together. So what we're going to do is consider where we made the joining. Also, before you join it to this, make sure you use your overlocker to finish this joining you would have on the inside. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to simply take the front side and the bottom side of my sleeve. I'm going to match it up with the body over here. Okay, so this is the body, this is my sleeve, front facing front. Match them together, hold it here, and then I'm going to fix it like this all the way around. So you see, I'm going to simply start sewing from here, I'm going to go around, and I'll end up where I started. Once I do that, I'm basically done. Alright, so I've installed my sleeves. The last thing I'm going to do, which is the main advice why I wanted to keep you guys here until I get here, is for our buttonhole space. So where I will put our buttonholes. So what you want to do is you want to place the first buttonhole up here. That's on the collar. That's where the first buttonhole is going to be. And after every 2.5 inches, you are going to place another buttonhole. So you see, after 2.5, that's where you're going to have your first buttonhole. And then after 2.5 inches after that, another buttonhole. So that's what you want to do. You want to keep this line consistent. 2.5 is just perfect, so that you don't have any hole in between your shirt showing your skin or something or anything like that. So you want to keep this 2.5 consistent all the way through. Alright, so see what I mean? The first one here, that's where we're going to put the first buttonhole on the neck. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to, so from this buttonhole, the next one is going to start at 2.5 inches after here. So you see, then you have your buttonhole. 2.5 inches after the end of your first buttonhole is where your second one will start. 2.5 inches after your second one stops is where your third one will start. So the space between them should stay 2.5 inches all the way down. So, and then if you, after the last one, if you see that you have like 4 or 5 inches at the end, so after the last one, there's no need to go and squeeze in another one here. You can just leave it there like so. So I'm going to do my buttonholes. After I do that, I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.